The rain fell soft and silver over the city that night. Anna Reed stood at the bottom of the wide marble steps of the Lakeside Grand Hotel. Above her, golden light spilled out of tall glass doors. Inside, 300 of the richest and most powerful people in the city were gathering for the biggest charity gala of the year, the annual fund for the Children's Hospital. Anna was 46 years old. She wore a simple dark blue dress, no diamonds, no designer name. Her shoes were clean but old. Her hair was tied back in a plain knot. She looked, for all the world, like a woman who had wandered into the wrong place. In her hand she held a small white envelope. Inside it was an invitation, a real one, with her name printed in gold. Dr. Anna Reed, guest of the hospital board. She had not wanted to come, but the letter had been signed by an old friend, Dr. Thomas Hale, the man who had taught her everything she knew about surgery 30 years ago. He was being honored tonight for his life's work. He had written her a single line at the bottom of the invitation, in his shaking old hand. "Come, Anna, just this once. I want the world to see you again before I'm gone." So she had come. She took a deep breath, climbed the steps, and walked toward the doors. A young man in a black suit stood at the entrance. He was tall, polished, and proud. A small gold badge on his chest read EVENTS Manager, MARCUSWLLS. He looked Anna up and down, and his smile faded into something cold. "Can I help you, ma'am?" he asked. The word ma'am came out flat, almost like an insult. "Good evening," Anna said calmly. "I'm here for the gala. I have my invitation." She held out the white envelope. Marcus did not take it. He glanced at it the way a man glances at a piece of trash. "This is a private event," he said. "Invitation only, black tie, very exclusive." "I understand," Anna said. "I have an invitation. My name is on it." "Ma'am," Marcus said, louder now, "I think there's been a mistake. The staff entrance is around the back. If you're here to help with the kitchen or the cleaning, that's where you need to go." A few guests nearby slowed down to listen. A woman in a red gown whispered something to her husband. They both smiled. Anna kept her voice gentle. "I'm not staff, I'm a guest. Please just check the list. Reed, R-E-E-D." Marcus sighed loudly as if she were a great burden to him. He took out a tablet and scrolled. He was not really reading it. After 2 seconds he looked up. "You're not on the list." "I am," Anna said. "Dr. Anna Reed, guest of the board." At the word doctor, Marcus actually laughed. It was a short, ugly sound. "Doctor," he repeated. "Of course you are. Look, ma'am, I deal with this every year. People show up hopping for free food and free wine. You're not dressed for this. You don't belong here. Please don't make a scene." The whispers around them grew. More phones came out. Anna felt the old, familiar heat rise in her chest, the feeling of being looked at, judged, and dismissed all at once. She had felt it many times before in places far worse than this. She did not raise her voice. "Young man," she said quietly, "I would ask you to look one more time, or call someone from the board." Part 2, the humiliation. That was when Victor Kane arrived. Victor Kane was the chairman of the hospital board. He was 60, silver-haired, expensive, and used to being obeyed. He ran 3 hospitals and half the city's politics. He had a famous temper and a famous smile, and he never used them in the right order. He swept up the steps with 2 assistants behind him. He saw the small crowd, the phones, the plain woman at the door, and the flustered events manager. "Marcus," he said sharply, "what is going on? You're blocking my entrance." "Sir," Marcus said, relieved, "this woman insists she's a guest. She has an old invitation, but she's clearly—" Victor turned to Anna. He looked at her dress, her shoes, her plain face, and in 3 seconds he decided exactly who she was. "My dear woman," Victor said with a thin smile, "this is a $5,000 a plate event. The money tonight feeds sick children. I'm sure you understand. This is not the place for whatever it is you're hopping for." I was invited by Dr. Thomas Hale, Anna said. At the name, Victor's smile twitched. Thomas Hale was the man being honored tonight. Everyone respected him. Dr. Hale invited half the city, Victor said smoothly. He's an old man. He gets confused. I'm sure he meant no harm, but you can see you don't fit in here, can't you? He gestured at the glittering crowd inside, at the men in tuxedos and the women dripping with jewels. Be reasonable. Don't embarrass yourself. A reporter near the door had started filming. A society blogger lifted her phone. The little scene at the door was becoming a small show. Sir, Anna said, and her voice was very steady now, I have not raised my voice. I have not pushed. I have only asked you to read a name. If you read it and still want me to leave, I will go quietly. Victor's patience snapped. He hated being challenged in public, especially by someone he had already decided was beneath him. Security, he called out. 2 large men in dark suits stepped forward. This woman is trespassing, Victor said loudly, so the whole crowd could hear. She's pretending to be a guest. Please escort her off the property. We don't want her kind ruining the evening for our real donors. Her kind. The words landed in the crowd like a slap. Some people laughed. Some looked away, embarrassed for her. A few took photos. A teenage girl near the back, the daughter of a donor, frowned and whispered, "That's so mean." The 2 security guards moved toward Anna. She did not run. She did not cry. She simply held up one hand, not in fear, but in a calm command that strangely made both men stop. I will go, she said. But first, please tell Dr. Hale that Anna came. That's all. Just tell him Anna came and that she's sorry she couldn't stay. She turned to leave. And that is exactly when the world fell apart. Part 3, the night BRAKS open. A deep, terrible groan came from somewhere above them. It was a sound no building should ever make, the sound of steel bending, of stone grinding against stone. The chandeliers in the great hall began to swing. Glasses rattled on tables. The lights flickered. For one frozen second, 300 people stood completely still. Then the ceiling of the east wing came down. Later, the engineers would say it was a failed support column, weakened by years of cheap repairs that Victor Kane's company had approved to save money. But in that moment, no one understood anything. There was only the roar, the dust, the screaming, and the dark. A huge section of the upper balcony, packed with guests, collapsed into the dining hall below. Tables shattered. People were thrown to the floor. A thick cloud of gray dust rolled out of the great doors and washed over the steps where Anna stood. The screaming began everywhere at once. Beautiful, powerful people clawed at each other to reach the exits. Marcus, the event's manager, dropped his tablet and froze, his mouth open, his proud face suddenly that of a frightened boy. Victor Kane stumbled backward, his expensive coat gray with dust, and grabbed one of his assistants to steady himself. Through the broken doors and the choking dust, Anna could see them now, the wounded. Dozens of them lying among the rubble, some moving, some not, blood on the white marble, a man pinned under a fallen beam, a woman holding her arm at a wrong, sickening angle, a teenager, the same girl who had whispered "That's so mean," sitting in shock with blood running down her face. The crowd ran away from the danger. Anna Reed ran toward it. Part 4, who she really was. To understand what happened next, you have to understand who Anna Reed truly was. 20 years before that night, her name was famous in every hospital in the country. They did not call her Anna Reed then. They called her by the name the medical world had given her after her first impossible save. The Steady Hand. Anna Reed had been the youngest chief trauma surgeon in the history of the National Medical Center. She had a gift that could not be taught. When everyone else panicked, she went calm. When a patient was dying and there was no time and no clear answer, her mind became clear and quiet like still water. Her hands never shook. Not once. Not ever. She had saved soldiers carried in from war zones. She had rebuilt a child crushed in a train crash and given him back his life. She had led the trauma response after a stadium fire that killed 40 and would have killed 200 more if not for her. Surgeons twice her age had stepped back and let her take the lead because they knew, when the worst happened, Anna Reed was the best in the room. Always. And then it was all taken from her. It happened because of a man, a powerful, dishonest man, and a lie. A wealthy patient had died on her table during an operation that no surgeon on earth could have survived. The patient was the brother of a politician. The family wanted someone to blame, and the politician wanted to protect the real reason, that the hospital, to save money, had given Anna faulty equipment and an exhausted, understaffed team. Rather than admit the truth, the hospital board chose a simpler story. They blamed her. They said she had been reckless. They leaked false documents. They destroyed her name in the newspapers before she could even speak. A long, cruel investigation followed. In the end, she was cleared of every charge, but quietly on a back page, long after the world had stopped paying attention. By then, the damage was done. Her license was suspended during the investigation. Her marriage broke under the weight of it. Her colleagues, afraid to be near the scandal, stopped calling. When it was finally over, Anna Reed walked away from medicine, not because she had lost her skill, but because she had lost her faith in the people who ran it. She moved to a small town. She lived a small, quiet life. She volunteered at a tiny free clinic where no one knew her old name. She told herself she was done. She had not held a scalpel in a hospital for 12 years. The man who had led the board that destroyed her, the man who had signed the papers, who had chosen money over truth, who had let her take the fall, had been a younger, hungrier executive back then. His name was Victor Kane. And tonight, 12 years later, he had just called her kind and ordered her thrown into the street. He did not even recognize her. But Anna had recognized him the moment he walked up those steps. She had said nothing. She had only wanted to see her old teacher honored, and then to disappear again. The universe, it seemed, had other plans. Part 5. The Steady Hand RETURNS. Anna pushed through the broken doors and into the dust and ruin of the great hall. The scene inside was a nightmare. Smoke and dust hung in the air. People were crying out. Some guests had stopped running and now stood frozen, useless, staring at the wounded around their feet, not knowing what to do. Anna's mind did the thing it had always done. It went calm. It went quiet. The screaming faded into the background. Her eyes moved across the room, and in seconds she had counted, sorted, and decided. 20, maybe 30 injured, 5 critical, 2 bleeding badly, 1 man trapped, 1 head wound on the girl, 1 airway problem on the older man near the column. She raised her voice, and for the first time that night, it was loud. It was the voice of someone who had commanded operating rooms full of people during the worst hours of their lives. Listen to me. The room turned toward her. My name is Dr. Anna Reed. I am a trauma surgeon. I am taking charge of this scene right now. If you can hear me and you are not seriously hurt, I need your help, not your panic. We can save these people, but only if you do exactly what I say. For a moment, no one moved. They saw the same plain woman in the plain blue dress that Victor had ordered thrown out. Then she knelt by the man trapped under the beam, pressed 2 fingers to his neck, read his pulse in an instant, and started giving orders fast, clear, certain, and something in her voice made people obey. You and you strong men come here. On 3 we lift this beam 6 inches, no more. Do not drag him. You in the green dress take off that sash, fold it, press it hard on this woman's leg, lean your whole weight on it. Do not stop until I tell you. You call the ambulances, tell them mass casualty, structural collapse, at least 5 critical. We need everything they have. The room woke up. Suddenly there was purpose where there had been panic. People who had been frozen now had jobs. A banker held pressure on a bleeding wound. A movie star ripped tablecloths into bandages. A waiter who had stayed behind became Anna's runner, sprinting where she pointed. Anna moved through the wreckage like water through a riverbed, fast, smooth, never wasted. She reached the older man near the fallen column. His face was turning blue. His airway was blocked, crushed by the fall. She had no operating room, no tools, no team of nurses. She had a steak knife from a dinner table, a clean drinking straw, and her own steady hands. A young doctor, a real one, a guest at the gala, pushed forward, pale and shaking. You can't do a field tracheotomy with that," he stammered. "He'll die. We have to wait for the paramedics." Anna did not look up. "If we wait, he's dead in 90 seconds. I've done this in a desert with less." Her hands were already moving, calm and exact. "Now hold his head still and trust me." 40 seconds later, the man took a deep, ragged, beautiful breath. Air rushed into his lungs. His face went from blue to pink. He was alive. The young doctor stared at her hands. They had not shaken once. "Who are you?" he whispered. But Anna was already moving to the next patient. Part 6. The girl. The teenage girl sat against a broken pillar, blood matting her hair, her eyes wide and unfocused. She was the daughter of one of the donors. She was the one who had whispered "That's so mean" when Victor mocked Anna at the door. Now Anna knelt in front of her and took her face gently in both hands. "Hello, sweetheart," she said softly. "What's your name?" "Lily," the girl whispered. "Lily, good. I'm Anna. I'm a doctor and I am not going anywhere. I need you to look at my eyes, okay? Just my eyes." Anna's hands moved over the girl's skull, reading the wound, checking her eyes, her pulse, the way she answered questions. A scalp cut, frightening, bloody but not deep. No skull fracture. No swelling behind the eyes. The girl was in shock, but she would live. "You're going to be just fine, Lily," Anna said, and pressed a folded cloth to the wound. "Hold this right here. You're being so brave, braver than every grown-up in this room." Across the hall, Lily's mother, who had earlier laughed at Anna's old shoes, came crawling through the dust, sobbing her daughter's name. She reached them and froze when she saw who was holding her child safe. It was the woman they had thrown out. Is she going to?" the mother choked. "She's going to be okay," Anna said. "She's strong, stay with her, hold her hand, keep her talking." The mother grabbed Anna's wrist. "I'm sorry," she wept. "At the door I laughed, I'm so sorry." "It doesn't matter now," Anna said simply, and was already gone to the next one. Part 7. Victor Kane on his knees. Near the doors, Victor Kane had finally stopped running. He stood in the dust, his silver hair gray, his expensive coat torn, watching the plain woman in the blue dress save life after life with her bare hands. He watched the powerful people of the city, people who would never take orders from anyone, follow her every word without question. And slowly, terribly, the memory came back to him. The steady hand. He had seen those hands before, 12 years ago, in photographs, in court documents he had helped to twist, in a name he had helped to destroy so that his hospital would not have to admit its own greed. His face went white. "It can't be," he whispered. He stumbled toward her through the rubble. You're," his voice cracked. "You're Anna Reed, the Anna Reed." Anna was kneeling over the man with the broken arm, setting it with strips of curtain and a piece of wood. She glanced up at Victor for half a second, just half a second, and then went back to her work. "Yes," she said, "I am." I didn't recognize you." Victor's voice was shaking now. The proud, powerful man was gone. In his place was a frightened old man standing in the ruin of his own building. "I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. For tonight. For all of it. For 12 years ago. Victor," Anna said, still working, still calm, "I don't have time for your apology right now. There are people dying in this room that you built badly to save money. So you can either stand there and feel sorry for yourself, or you can get on your knees and hold pressure on this man's chest while I work. Choose. Now." For 1 second, the chairman of the board, the most powerful man in the room, simply stared at her. Then Victor Kane, silver hair, torn coat, broken pride, got down on his knees in the dust and blood, and did exactly what she told him to do. Part 8: The Longest Hour. The next hour was the longest of many lives. The paramedics arrived to find something they had never seen before. A mass casualty scene, usually a place of chaos, that was already organized like a working field hospital. Wounded sorted by how badly they were hurt. The dying already stabilized. Bleeding already stopped. A clear voice calling out exactly who needed to go first and why. The lead paramedic, a tough veteran named Dana Ortiz, walked in expecting screaming and disaster. Instead, she found order. She found a plain woman in a blue dress directing everything with quiet authority. "Who's running this scene?" Dana shouted. "I am," Anna said, not turning around, her hands deep in a wound. "Dr. Anna Reed, trauma surgery. We have 5 critical, 8 serious, the rest walking. The man by the column has a field airway, keep it clear. The woman in green is your first transport, she's lost too much blood. Go." Dana Ortiz had been doing this job for 20 years. She knew the voice of someone who knew what they were doing. She did not argue. She simply turned to her team and said, "You heard the doctor. Move." When the head of the responding fire department arrived and tried to take command, Dana stopped him at the door. "Chief," she said, "whoever that woman is, she's the best trauma doc I've ever seen work a scene. Don't take it from her. Just give her what she needs." So the firefighters, the paramedics, the police, all of them, fell in behind a woman in old shoes who, 2 hours earlier, had been called her kind and ordered into the street. By the time the last ambulance pulled away, every single person who had been alive when Anna entered that hall was still alive. Not one died. Not one. Part 9: The Truth Comes Out. It was nearly dawn when the worst of it was over. Anna sat alone on the marble steps outside in the gray light, her blue dress now ruined with dust and other people's blood. Her hands, for the first time all night, finally rested in her lap. She was exhausted in a way she had almost forgotten, the deep, clean exhaustion of work that mattered. The doors opened behind her. An old man came out slowly, leaning on a cane. It was Dr. Thomas Hale. He had been at the far side of the hall when the ceiling fell, unhurt, and from a distance he had watched the whole thing, watched his old student rise out of the dust and become, once again, the surgeon the world had thrown away. He lowered himself down beside her on the cold step. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "You came," he finally said. His old eyes were wet. "After everything they did to you, you still came." "You asked me to," Anna said. "I wanted the world to see you again," Thomas whispered. "I never imagined this." "Neither did I." He took her blood-stained hand in both of his. "They never deserved you, Anna. 12 years ago, when they hung you out to dry, I begged the board to tell the truth. They wouldn't. I have carried that shame every day since." His voice broke. "Tonight you saved the lives of the very people who threw you out. Do you know what that means?" Anna looked up at the lightening sky. "It means," she said quietly, "that I'm still a doctor. No matter what they took away, they could take my job, they could take my name, they could take 12 years. She flexed her steady hands. "But they could never take this." But the world was not finished with the story. Because all of it, every moment had been recorded. The same phones that came out to film a plain woman being humiliated at a door had stayed out to film what came next. There was footage of Anna running into the collapse while everyone else ran out. Footage of her doing a field tracheotomy with a steak knife. Footage of 300 of the richest people in the city following her orders. Footage of Victor Kane, chairman of the board, on his knees in the dust, doing what she told him to do. And there was the footage from the very start. Victor Kane, in his expensive coat, pointing at Anna and saying, "We don't want her kind ruining the evening for our real donors." The videos hit the internet by sunrise. By noon, the whole country knew the name Anna Reed again, but this time, the real story. Old journalists who had covered her downfall 12 years ago dug up their files. The truth that had been buried on a back page finally came roaring onto the front one. The faulty equipment, the exhausted team, the cover-up, the lie, the innocent surgeon they had destroyed to protect the hospital's profits. And the man at the center of it all, then and now, was Victor Kane. Part 10: The Reckoning. The fall of Victor Kane was fast and total. The collapse investigation found exactly what the videos suggested, that his company had approved cheap, dangerous repairs to save money, and that the failed support column was the result. People had nearly died because of his greed. Again. The old scandal and the new one merged into a single firestorm. He resigned in disgrace within a week. The board that had protected him for years scattered like frightened birds. Lawsuits came. So did criminal charges. The powerful, silver-haired man who had told a woman she didn't belong in his world found himself, very quickly, with no world left to rule. But the most important meeting did not happen in a courtroom. It happened in a quiet hospital room, 3 days after the collapse. Anna had come to check on her patients now, the ones she had saved. She visited the man with the airway, who could now breathe and speak and thank her with tears. She visited the woman whose leg she had saved. And she visited Lily, the teenage girl, who threw her arms around Anna's neck and would not let go. As Anna walked the hallway, she passed an open door and stopped. Inside sat Marcus Wells, the young events manager, the one who had called her ma'am like an insult, who had told her to use the staff entrance, who had laughed when she said the word doctor. He had been hurt in the collapse too, a broken arm, a cut across his forehead, wounds that Anna herself had treated that night in the dust without knowing or caring who he was. He looked up and saw her in the doorway, his face crumpled. "You," he started. "You're the one who," he looked down at his bandaged arm, the arm she had set. They told me it was you. You saved me, after what I said to you, after what I did." He could barely speak. Why would you help me?" Anna stepped into the room. She looked at the frightened young man, not with anger and not with pride, just with the plain, tired kindness of someone who had seen the very worst of the world and had decided, long ago, not to become it. "Because you were hurt," she said simply. "That's the only thing I needed to know about you." Marcus began to cry. "I judged you," he whispered. "In 2 seconds, without knowing a single thing about you. I treated you like you were nothing." "Yes," Anna said gently, "you did." "How do I," his voice broke, "how do I ever make that right?" Anna was quiet for a moment. Then she said something he would remember for the rest of his life. "You can't undo it," she said. "But you can decide that the next person who walks up to your door, the one in old shoes, the one who doesn't look like they belong, the one you've already decided is nothing, you can decide to look at them again, really look, and remember that you have no idea who they are or what they've done or what they're capable of." She paused at the door. "That's how you make it right, not with me, with them." She left him there in the quiet room, a changed man. Part 11: The Offer. 2 weeks after the collapse, Anna received a letter. It came from the National Medical Center, the very hospital that had destroyed her 12 years ago, now under entirely new leadership. The letter was signed by the new chief of medicine, a woman Anna had never met. It was an apology first, a real one, long, detailed, and humble. It admitted on the record everything the hospital had done to her, the cover-up, the lie, the years of silence. And then it was an offer. They wanted her back, not as just any surgeon, but as the director of trauma surgery and emergency response for the entire hospital system. They wanted her to build the trauma program of the future. They wanted to name a teaching scholarship after her, to train young surgeons in her name. They wanted to give back everything that had been taken, and more. Anna read the letter 3 times. Then she set it down and looked out the window of her small apartment. At the quiet town, she had hidden in for 12 years. She thought about all the years she had told herself she was done. She thought about the night of the collapse and how her mind had gone calm and quiet, the way it always had, the way it always would. She thought about Lily's arms around her neck, about the man breathing through the airway she'd built with a straw, about the young doctor who had whispered, "Who are you?" as her hands moved without a single tremor. She thought about all the patients she might still save, in all the years she had left. Some gifts, she realized, are not yours to throw away. They are only yours to use. She picked up a pen and wrote a single word in reply. Yes. Part 12, The Steady Hand Again. 6 months later, Anna Reed stood at the front of a packed lecture hall at the National Medical Center. She wore a white coat now with her name stitched over the heart, Dr. Anna Reed, Director, Trauma Surgery. In front of her sat 50 young surgeons, the first class of the scholarship that carried her name. They looked at her the way she had once looked at her own teacher, with awe, with hope, with the hunger to be great. Among them, on a special scholarship for second-chance students, sat a familiar face in the back row, Marcus Wells. He had quit his old job. He had gone back to school. He was studying to become an emergency medical technician, to be one of the people who runs toward the danger, not away from it. He had taken Anna's words and built a whole new life on them. Anna looked out at all those young faces and was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke. 12 years ago, she said, the world decided I was finished. They took my job. They took my name. They told me I didn't belong. For a long time I believed them. I hid. I told myself my best days were behind me. The room was utterly silent. And then one night, she said, the ceiling fell, and I learned something I want every one of you to carry with you for the rest of your lives. She held up her hands, those famous, steady hands. What you truly are cannot be taken from you by people who never understood it in the first place. Titles can be taken. Names can be dragged through the mud. Years can be stolen. But the gift, the skill, the thing that lives in your hands and your heart, and your training at 3 o'clock in the morning when a life is slipping away, that belongs to you alone. And no one on this earth can ever take it. She looked at each of them. They called me her kind and threw me into the street, she said softly. And then I walked back in and saved every single one of them, not to prove anything to them, but because that is what I am. She smiled. Remember that. Be so good, so kind, and so true to your craft that even the people who throw you away will one day need you to save their lives. And when that day comes... She paused. Save them anyway. The young surgeons rose to their feet as one, and the applause shook the walls of the great hall. In the back row, an old man with a cane wept with joy. Dr. Thomas Hale had lived just long enough to see it, his greatest student, return to the place she belonged, lifting up the next generation in her own name. And outside, beyond the windows, the city went on with its busy life, full of people walking past one another, judging one another in 2 seconds at a glance, never knowing which plain woman in old shoes might be the greatest among them. But Anna Reed knew the truth now. She had always known it. The world can ground you. The world can humiliate you. The world can decide in 2 cold seconds that you are nothing. But what you truly are does not stay buried. In the end, it always rises. Always.